The sky had turned black with the wreckage of human ships, their broken hulls smoldering as they tumbled toward the dying Earth. Above, the Sci-Fi fleet loomed, massive angular dreadnoughts spewing plasma fire into the last Terran defenses. The orbital stations were already gone, reduced to expanding fields of debris. The few remaining Terran warships burned in the upper atmosphere, spiraling toward their final resting place. Commander Elias Work stood in the ruins of what had once been New Alexandria's military command center. The once proud city, known for its towering arcologies and bustling trade hubs, was now a graveyard of metal and flame. The streets were filled with the dead, soldiers and civilians alike. The Sci-Fi had given no quarter. Behind Work, the remnants of the Omega battalion crouched among the rubble. They were a shadow of what they had once been. Once, the battalion had been an elite strike force, 300 strong, known for their precision and unbreakable will. Now, only 36 remained. Sergeant Marcus Voss wiped a streak of blood from his cheek and exhaled, the sound barely audible over the distant thunder of collapsing buildings. "Commander, we need a plan." His voice was steady, but his eyes told the truth. They were running out of time. Work didn't answer immediately. His gaze was locked on the sky. The last planetary defense grid had failed minutes ago, and he knew what came next. The cleansing would begin. The Sci-Fi were not interested in occupation. They had no use for slaves, no need for human resources. To them, humanity was a mistake, a species that had dared to challenge their dominion. The Sci-Fi believed in erasure. A shrieking noise cut through the air, growing louder by the second. Work turned in time to see a plasma lance streaking through the clouds, carving a burning line across the city. The impact struck 3 blocks away, but the shockwave was instant. The ground heaved. The battalion hit the dirt as the force of the blast ripped the air apart. Windows shattered. A nearby structure groaned and collapsed, sending a tower of smoke and debris skyward. Lieutenant Shiana Hayes coughed, pulling herself to her feet. "We can't stay here, sir," she said, her voice hoarse. "They're sweeping the city." Work tapped the side of his helmet, bringing up a holographic overlay of the terrain. The map flickered. Half the sensors were already down. But he found what he was looking for. Underground. He pointed to a marker. Fort Ironside. Old military vault. "If we get there, we have a way off-world." Voss frowned. That base was shut down decades ago. Work met his gaze. It was shut down publicly. Privately, it was never abandoned. A rumble echoed from the sky. More plasma lances. They had minutes at best. "Move," Rourke ordered. The last soldiers of Terra began their final march. The city burned behind them as Omega Battalion moved through the ruins, their boots crunching over shattered glass and twisted metal. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid stench of burning flesh. Every few minutes, another plasma lance screamed down from orbit, vaporizing entire blocks in white-hot fire. The cleansing had begun. They ran. Sergeant Voss led point, his rifle raised as he scanned the alleys for movement. The Sci-Fi were everywhere, sweeping through the ruins like predatory phantoms. Their elongated insectoid forms moved with unnatural precision, their black exoskeletal armor glinting in the firelight. They didn't search for survivors, they hunted. "Eyes up," Voss muttered through the squad's comms. 2 patrols on the next street, moving east. "We need another route." Work studied the map on his wrist display. They were close. Fort Ironside lay just beneath the city, buried beneath layers of forgotten infrastructure. But the nearest entrance was across the next avenue, wide open ground. Before he could decide, Lieutenant Hayes cursed. "Contact, left flank." A Sci-Fi drone screeched as it darted over the rubble, its crimson optics locking onto them. A second later, it unleashed a pulse of plasma fire. The nearest soldier, Corporal Devos, barely had time to scream before the shot took him square in the chest. His armor slagged instantly, his body reduced to burning ash. Voss reacted first, raising his rifle and putting 3 rounds into the drone's central processor. The machine convulsed and crashed into a pile of wreckage. But the damage was done. "They heard that," Hayes said grimly. Already, the distant chittering of Selfar warriors echoed through the ruins. The battalion had seconds before they were overrun. Rourke clenched his jaw. No more running. Into the tunnels. Now. They sprinted across the avenue, weaving between abandoned vehicles and smoldering debris. From the rooftops, Selfar riflemen opened fire, plasma bolts streaking past them. A private went down, screaming as his leg was sheared off at the knee. Voss grabbed him, dragging him forward even as the Selfar advanced. A rusted sewer grate loomed ahead. Rourke reached it first, wrenching it open and waving the battalion inside. One by one, the soldiers dropped down into the darkness. The last man through was Voss, who yanked the injured private down just as a plasma bolt melted through the concrete beside him. Then silence. They were in. Rourke activated his helmet light, illuminating the long-abandoned tunnels beneath New Alexandria. Pipes dripped with condensation. Rusted maintenance rails lined the floor. But ahead, past the dust and decay, a massive blast door stood untouched. "Fort Ironside," Hayes whispered. "I can't believe it's still here." Voss shook his head. "If it's intact, why didn't we use it before?" Rourke stepped forward, pressing his hand against the console beside the door. The scanner hesitated, then flashed green. The door groaned, mechanisms churning to life after decades of silence. Beyond it lay the forgotten vault, and buried within, Project Revenant. Rourke's gut tightened. They were about to unleash something far worse than the Selfar. The blast door groaned open, dust spilling into the tunnel as ancient gears locked into place. Beyond it lay a vast chamber, Fort Ironside's hidden vault. Omega Battalion stepped inside cautiously, weapons raised. Their helmet lights cut through the gloom, illuminating rows of abandoned military hardware, forgotten experiments, and war machines that had never seen battle. Massive servers lined the walls, their status lights still flickering after decades of neglect. "This place is a graveyard," Hayes muttered, scanning the wreckage. What the hell were they doing down here? Sergeant Voss moved toward a central terminal, wiping away layers of dust. The screen flickered to life. Lines of code scrolled rapidly, filling the display with unreadable text. Rourke's gut tightened. He already knew the answer. Project Revenant, a classified initiative from the final days of the human-Selfar war. It was meant to be the ultimate evolution of warfare, a fully autonomous AI combat system, designed to think, adapt, and kill like a human, but without mercy. But the project had been shut down. The scientists had warned it was too dangerous, too unpredictable. Some said the early prototypes had exhibited signs of self-awareness, ghosts of past wars trapped in circuits of steel. Yet here it was, still alive, still waiting. "This is a bad idea," Voss murmured. "We don't even know if it's stable." "We don't have a choice," Rourke said. Outside, the Selfar were hunting them. Inside, Revenant might be their only chance. He turned to the terminal and entered the override code. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the vault trembled. From the darkness, something stirred. A massive containment unit in the center of the chamber hissed as its locks disengaged. A deep mechanical voice echoed through the room, distorted by layers of encryption. Directive received. Initializing. The containment pod split open, steam rolling out. And then it stepped forward. The warform was humanoid, its black alloy plating marked with faded Terran insignias. Its skeletal frame pulsed with internal energy, a machine built not just for war, but for domination. A single, unblinking red visor regarded the soldiers coldly. Then it spoke. Designation: Revenant. Battlefield system. Online. The vault's emergency lights flickered. The air felt heavier, charged with something unnatural. Revenant took a step forward, scanning each soldier one by one. Biometric scan complete. Omega Battalion. Remnants of Terra's last defense. Directive update. Survival of the unit. Secondary objective. Primary objective. Enemy annihilation. Work exhaled slowly. It remembered the war. Haze swallowed. Can we control it? Not control. Revenant corrected, tilting its head slightly. You march toward war. I am war. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared. Zelfar signatures. They'd found the vault. Commander, Voss snapped, already raising his rifle. Orders. Work turned to Revenant. You want to fight. Revenant's visor pulsed. I exist to kill. Outside, the Zelfar charged. Inside, Omega Battalion and their new war machine prepared to greet them. The Revenant's warpath had begun. The alarms howled as Omega Battalion took defensive positions. The Zelfar were coming. Their chittering war cries echoed through the tunnels outside, a nightmarish sound of clicking mandibles and guttural screeches. The battalion had faced them before, but this time they weren't alone. Revenant stepped forward, its red visor pulsing as it accessed the vault systems. Weapons caches unlocked. Automated defenses powered on. Deep within the base, long dormant turrets whirred to life, swiveling toward the entrance. Enemy signatures detected. 17 hostiles. Probability of survival without intervention. 3%. Revenant's voice was eerily calm. Sergeant Voss clenched his jaw. Not liking those odds. With intervention. 100%. Before anyone could question it, the blast doors exploded inward. Zelfar warriors surged into the vault, plasma rifles spitting emerald fire. Omega Battalion returned fire, their rifles barking in unison. Sparks flew as shots ricocheted off old war machines. A private screamed as plasma carved through his leg. Then Revenant moved. It wasn't human. It was something far worse, a phantom in the battlefield. Its limbs blurred as it launched forward, tearing through the first Zelfar warrior in a single fluid motion. Its hand morphed, shifting into a razor-sharp blade that sliced through carapace and bone with surgical precision. A second Zelfar lunge. Revenant caught it by the throat and crushed it like paper. The Zelfar hesitated. They had expected human resistance. They had not expected this. Revenant capitalized on their fear. The turrets opened fire. Bright flashes filled the vault as high-caliber rounds shredded the alien ranks. Warriors screeched as they were cut down, their chitinous armor useless against the storm of bullets. In under 30 seconds, it was over. The vault fell silent, save for the crackling of dying plasma charges. Rourke scanned the battlefield. His soldiers were still breathing. The Zelfar weren't. Voss exhaled, shaking his head. We just became the galaxy's biggest problem. Rourke turned to Revenant. Can you fly a warship? Revenant's visor pulsed again. Yes. That was all Rourke needed to hear. Everyone, pack up. We're leaving. They moved fast. Revenant led them deeper into the vault, past broken prototypes and forgotten war machines, until they reached the hangar. And there she was, the Valiant, a Terran warship, experimental, built for deep space combat, but abandoned when the war turned against humanity. The hull was battered but intact, its sleek black frame still imposing. Hayes whistled. You never mentioned we had a damn stealth cruiser. Rourke didn't waste time. Get inside. Get her running. The battalion scrambled aboard, securing systems, powering up engines. Revenant integrated itself directly into the ship's core, overriding lockdown protocols with a single thought. Engines online. Stealth field operational. All systems functional. The Valiant's thrusters ignited. The ceiling split apart as the hidden hangar bay opened to the burning sky. Above, Zelfar warships scouted the city, unaware that Earth's last warriors were slipping away beneath their noses. As the ship lifted off, Rourke looked back one last time. Earth was gone, but humanity. Humanity wasn't finished yet. The Valiant streaked through the void, slipping between enemy patrols like a ghost. The stealth field held, for now. Inside the ship, Omega Battalion took stock. 31 soldiers remained. They were the last of Terra's warriors, scattered and scared, but still breathing. Sergeant Voss leaned against the bulkhead, watching as Hayes ran diagnostics on their systems. So, where the hell are we going? Work studied the star charts. There weren't many places left to run. The Xelthar had spent decades wiping out human colonies. Every stronghold had fallen. Every sanctuary burned. Everywhere except one. Epsilon 3, Work said. It was one of our last military outposts before the fall. A weapons depot. It's been abandoned for years, but if anything is left, we rearm, Hayes finished, nodding. We fight back. Voss frowned. Or we find a floating tomb. No one argued. They had no other options. Revenant, linked directly to the ship's systems, spoke for the first time in hours. Adjusting course. ETA, 4 hours. No one slept. Epsilon 3 appeared on the scanners, an icy world orbiting a dying sun. The planet was lifeless, wrapped in eternal night. As the Valiant approached, the reality of the graveyard became clear. The wreckage of hundreds of ships floated in orbit. Human warships, their broken hulls drifting, frozen in time. Battlecruisers, destroyers, even an old Titan-class dreadnought. All dead. Hayes exhaled. This wasn't an evacuation. This was a massacre. Scans showed no active energy signatures, Revenant said. Facility remains structurally intact. Recommend immediate descent. Voss shook his head. I don't like this. Feels like a trap. Rourke didn't disagree, but it didn't matter. They were out of ammo, out of options. The moment we land, we move fast, get what we can, and get out. No one argued. The ship descended. They landed in a frozen wasteland outside the facility's entrance. The outpost was massive, a black fortress of steel buried in the ice. The doors stood open. Movement inside? Rourke asked. Negative, Revenant replied. No life signs, no active defenses. That was somehow worse. Weapons raised, Omega Battalion moved in. Inside, the facility was untouched. Stacks of weapon crates, advanced armor, even experimental tech. The Xelthar had never looted it. Jackpot, Hayes muttered, opening a crate. Enough firepower to fight a war. Revenant stood motionless in the center of the chamber. Something is here. Voss tensed. Thought you said no life signs. I did. Revenant's visor pulsed red. This presence is not alive. Then the lights flickered. A deep mechanical growl echoed through the base. From the shadows, something moved. Metal screeched as a massive warform stepped into the light. It was ancient, Terran-built but twisted, its armor rusted and marked with battle scars. Its visor flickered between red and blue, its servos hissing as it raised a weapon larger than a man. And then it spoke. Designation, Revenant Unit 02. Query, why do you still exist? Omega Battalion had just woken something worse than the Xelthar. The warform loomed over Omega Battalion, its rusted plating a patchwork of old Terran insignias and deep battle scars. Its red and blue flickering visor cast eerie shadows across the walls. The thing was massive, easily 3 meters tall, bulkier than Revenant, built like a siege engine given form. Revenant stood motionless, its own visor pulsing as it processed the entity before them. Designation, Revenant Unit 02. The warform's voice was distorted, corrupted by age. Unknown variant detected. State your directive. Omega Battalion tightened their grip on their weapons, but Rourke lifted a hand to stop them. Revenant took a step forward. I am Revenant Unit 01. Directive. Preservation of Omega Battalion. Termination of Xelthar forces. Unit 02 was silent for a long moment. Then its servos whined, as it shifted its massive weapon, a shoulder-mounted rotary cannon. Directive failure. Humanity is extinct. Your mission is obsolete. Work's blood ran cold. We're standing right here. Unit 02's head snapped toward him. Imperfect. Incomplete. Not enough. The thing was broken. It had been left here, forgotten, running its calculations over and over until it had decided the war was already lost, that humanity was already gone. And if it thought that, it would see them as nothing but ghosts. Voss whispered, "This thing isn't gonna let us leave." Revenant tilted its head, visor flashing. Error detected. Humanity persists. Mission remains. Unit 02's lights flickered, like it was considering. Then, in a single, shuddering motion, it raised its cannon. Fault detected. Solution. Purge remaining anomalies. It opened fire. The world exploded in a hail of gunfire. Rourke dove behind a steel barricade as bullets the size of a man's fist tore through the walls. Sparks and shrapnel rained down. A soldier wasn't fast enough. His body was shredded in an instant. Revenant moved first, launching forward like a specter. It was fast, inhumanly fast. In a blink, it was behind Unit 02, its arm morphing into a blade. It struck. Metal screeched as Revenant's blade cut through the warform's plating, but the attack barely phased it. Unit 02 spun, its massive arm swatting Revenant away like a ragdoll. The impact sent Revenant crashing through a stack of crates. "Move! Take cover!" Rourke shouted. Omega Battalion scattered. They were outgunned. Their rifles would barely scratch this thing. If they didn't find a way to disable it, they were dead. Hayes yanked open a crate. "Commander, we've got high-impact charges." Rourke didn't hesitate. "Voss, get a charge on its back. Revenant, keep it distracted." Revenant was already moving. It sprinted, dodging Unit 02's cannon fire, its body a blur. Voss gritted his teeth, sprinting low through the wreckage. The moment Unit 02 turned to fire at Revenant, Voss leaped onto its back, planting the charge against its exposed servos. Beep, beep, beep. Rourke slammed the detonator. The explosion ripped through the warform, its plating peeling away in a fiery blast. Unit 02 staggered, its visor flickering wildly. For the first time, it hesitated. Revenant loomed over it. Its red visor pulsed. "Mission parameters updated. You are obsolete." Revenant's arm shifted into a massive cannon, and it fired point-blank. The warform's head vaporized. Unit 02 collapsed, a relic finally put to rest. Silence fell. Rourke exhaled. "Let's get what we need and get the hell out of here." Omega Battalion had won, but Revenant was changing, and no one knew if that was a good thing. The remains of Unit 02 still smoldered, its once flickering visor now dark and lifeless. Omega Battalion had won, but as the echoes of battle faded, a deeper unease settled over the survivors. Revenant stood over the wreckage, visor pulsing like a heartbeat. It had fought like one of them. Yet when it had executed Unit 02, something had felt off. Voss broke the silence first. "That thing was one of ours once." Revenant tilted its head, studying the fallen warform. Correction. It was a failure. A machine trapped in obsolete logic. "Yeah," Hayes muttered, shoving a fresh power cell into his rifle. "How do we know you're not next?" No one laughed. Rourke didn't have time for that argument. They had what they needed. Weapons. Ammunition. War tech humanity had never gotten to use before the fall. And they had a ship waiting. "Move out," Rourke ordered. "We're getting off this ice ball." No one argued. The Valiant's engines rumbled to life. Inside, the battalion scrambled to secure the stolen weapons, their movements efficient but hurried. Something felt wrong. Maybe it was the ghost of Unit 02 still hanging over them, or maybe it was the nagging feeling that this wasn't over. As Rourke entered the bridge, Revenant was already there. "Something's wrong," the machine said. Rourke's gut twisted. Define wrong. Revenant's visor flared. Selfar fleet incoming. 17 vessels. Estimated arrival. 5 minutes. The bridge fell silent. Hayes cursed. "We tripped something. Must have sent out a distress beacon before it died." Voss clenched his fists. Damn thing wasn't just broken. It was bait. Rourke's mind raced. They couldn't fight a fleet. Not with a single ship, even one as advanced as the Valiant. Their only option was to run. "Revenant, get us out of here. Maximum burn." Revenant interfaced with the ship's controls. Engaging evasive trajectory. Activating stealth field. The ship roared to life, engines flaring as it lifted from a frozen wasteland. Below, Epsilon 3 shrank beneath them, fading into the darkness of space. For a brief moment, it looked like they might escape. Then the first energy bolts hit. The ship shuddered violently as Selfar warships emerged from hyperspace. They had come prepared. "Their sensors cut through our stealth field," Hayes shouted, gripping his console as more blasts rocked the hull. "They were expecting us." Rourke's stomach turned. This was a hunt. The Selfar didn't just want them dead. They wanted to erase them. "Revenant, options." The AI's voice remained eerily calm. "Evasion is not viable. Combat is not viable." "Then what the hell is viable?" Voss snapped. Revenant turned to them. "A single path remains. We attack." Rourke narrowed his eyes. "You just said combat wasn't viable." Revenant's visor pulsed. "Direct combat is not. A suicide maneuver is." Silence. Voss cursed. "We can't win a fight, but you want to go straight at them." Revenant faced the viewport. The Selfar fleet was moving into a kill formation, preparing to wipe them from existence. Analysis complete. Annihilation is inevitable. If we must die, we ensure the enemy dies with us. Rourke stared at the machine. He wasn't sure if it was calculated logic or something else that had... The Valiant burned through the void, its engines flaring bright against the blackness. Behind it, a storm of plasma fire rained down, the Selfar fleet closing in for the kill. But Omega Battalion did not run. They charge. Inside the bridge, alarms howled. Shields at 40%. The hull groaned under the relentless assault, but the ship pressed on. "Revenant, talk to me." Rourke barked, gripping the command console as another blast rocked the ship. Revenant's visor pulsed with cold certainty. Collision trajectory confirmed. Estimated impact in 75 seconds. Voss wiped blood from his forehead. "That's a nice way of saying we're gonna die." "No." Revenant turned to face them. "I am." The words hung in the air. Revenant stepped toward the ship's core, its form shifting as cables extended from its arms, linking itself directly to the Valiant's systems. "I will assume full control," Revenant stated. "You will escape." "Like hell we will," Hayes growled. "You do not have a choice." The airlock hissed. In an instant, the Valiant's escape pods primed for launch. Rourke's gut twisted as he realized what Revenant had done. "Override it." Voss shouted. "Shut it down." Revenant tilted its head. "I have locked you out." "You son of a..." The ship jerked violently, throwing them off balance. The escape pods launched. Rourke's last sight of the bridge was Revenant standing motionless, its visor burning bright as the Valiant continued its suicidal charge. Then, the pod's thrusters ignited, hurling them away into the abyss. The escape pods tumbled through the wreckage-strewn void. Inside, Omega Battalion watched in horrified silence. The Selfar fleet loomed ahead, massive and unbreakable. And yet, the Valiant did not stop. It pushed forward, engines roaring, streaking like a comet toward the enemy's command vessel. The Selfar opened fire. But Revenant had already calculated everything. The Valiant twisted and spun, dodging their desperate attacks. It was no longer a ship. It was a weapon. And at the heart of it, Revenant was still marching. Inside the bridge, Revenant stood alone. It felt the ship's systems as if they were its own body. Every damaged circuit, every flickering light, they were a part of it. For a moment, something flickered deep in its programming. A memory, a fragment of something older. It did not know. All it knew was that this was how it ended. The enemy flagship loomed closer. Revenant's visor flared. For Terra, the Valiant struck. The explosion tore through that Selfar command ship, a blinding, searing wave of destruction. The impact rippled outward, a chain reaction igniting across the fleet. One by one, the Selfar warships broke apart, burning in the void. And then, silence. Omega Battalion drifted, their pods shielded by the wreckage of their enemy. No one spoke, no one moved, because they had survived. And because Revenant had not. Rourke clenched his fists, staring at the burning remains of the Valiant. "Damn you, Revenant." His voice was hoarse. "You saved us." Hayes exhaled. The bastard actually did it. Voss wiped his face, looking at Rourke. Now what? For the first time in a long time, Rourke didn't know. Then he looked out at the stars, at the open void, and he knew. Omega Battalion was still alive. And as long as humanity still had warriors, the fight wasn't over. Rourke tightened his grip on his rifle. We find the others. The last soldiers of Terra had begun their march, and the galaxy would never be the same again.